My hair? Well, it looks prim and proper. If it's good enough for queens, then it's good enough for me. All right. We are working on some deep-seated father wounds. Oh boy, and they are absolutely the reason that all of my relationships are have tanked. Um, my dad projected every single wound he had onto me, and so I tend to look for partners who are emotionally unavailable, abusive, both physically and verbally, or just using me as a convenience. Um, uh, uh, I always tried so hard to please my dad, and I never could. He never, it was like he never wanted me. It was after a certain age, because when I was little, I remember him being a different guy, but also after he became a Christian, he became a different guy. That's what switched him up. But I mean, he was always, wounded. But I remember the day they uh, the day they picked me up to tell me that my brother had died. I was 1989, so I guess I was 9, and the it was all very odd because I remember my parents fighting, and I spent a lot of time out in the yard, like anyway. But that particular day, because I started having these feelings of like, I wish it was just going to be me. I don't want a brother. Um, they already don't pay attention to me, and they're already mean to me. If there's another person here, I'm gonna have to protect that person, and they're gonna be meaner to me. I just instinctually knew that. And I remember the day before, just sitting in the yard, just crying and just begging God, please don't. And I never told anybody this. Never told anybody this. Never. I don't think. Maybe a shrink once, but. So here we go, internet. You ready? My mom was about 6.5 months pregnant, and they'd been fighting and fighting and fighting and arguing. And then I had gone to school. I remember it's just a regular old school that day, but apparently she started bleeding or something, and they went to the hospital. Well, I got called to the office, and they told me that I was going to go home with one of my friends and her family. And we'd gone to church with these people, and I was good friends with her. I spent the night at her house quite a bit. I mean, like, so it wasn't anything odd to go to her house, like after church and stuff. So I just went, and I remember uh, the Child's Play movie was coming out. And like we were all sitting around, she had a ton of brothers and sisters, and we were sitting around in the living room, like laughing and eating our dinner or whatever. And the Child's Play commercial came on, and I was 9, so it was scary to me. Like I didn't like dolls anyway. They just weren't my thing. And I saw this commercial that kind of wigged me out a little bit. And then I go up to her room to get ready for bed, and I forget that she has a collection of porcelain fucking dolls, hundreds of them, lining all the walls and shelves with lights on them. So I laid there all night in absolute abject terror because all these dolls were staring at me after I just watched the Chucky commercial. And we had laughed when we watched it. It wasn't funny now. It wasn't, I was 9, and any one of those dolls could have come to life at any moment. And, I was terrified all night, didn't sleep. We got up, rode the bus, went to school. And then that afternoon, somebody called me to the office and said my parents were there to get me. I thought that was kind of strange. So I walk out to my dad, and you could just feel it. It didn't feel good at all. I knew something was wrong, bad wrong. And we got in, we had an old Ram Charger. We got in to the back seat, and mom was crying, and dad was yelling. And then I said something. I was upset. Like, I started crying because then it hit me. It was like, oh my God. Because I really didn't mean what I was saying. You know, I really did want a brother. But I was just terrified of it because of how I didn't, but I mean, I also figured he was a boy, he'd probably get treated better, but I didn't want that to happen. I didn't mean that. It was my 9-year-old little brain, like, just in survival mode, like it always was. And then he just turned around and, like, yelled at me, I wish it was you instead of your brother. And I don't remember what I'd said, but I'm sure I'd said something to piss him off. And that just wrecked me. It broke me. And I carried that with me my entire fucking life. And turns out his younger brother, who was the athlete, who was a baseball star, a good student, well liked, he was a popular kid, right? And he got leukemia at a very, very young age. And he died. And his father had said the same thing to my dad, the exact same thing. And my dad became an engineer. My dad was incredibly intelligent. And he put himself through school. He joined the Army, or I can't remember, Marines, I believe. The Air Force. Because he wanted to be a pilot. But, like, he accomplished things. And my grandfather would always pick at him and say, oh, you're big shot now. You're big man. You're a smart guy. Because my grandfather sold produce, you know? So there's always that, like, wounded ego of the hierarchy, you know what I mean? Like, and with your parents, they are always going to see you as a child. It doesn't matter, you know? Rarely do they see you as an adult. You're always going to be their little kid. And, like, that we got to break that stigma too, because they're not, our children are not like extensions of us, and they're not, you know, property. But I don't even know why I was thinking about all that. But my dad was very cruel to me in a lot of ways, and then would come back and be loving, you know. And I'm so sorry that I, you know, called you a worthless, no good piece of shit, and that I hope you die, you know, for I don't know, just anything, any little thing, drinking too much milk. One time I moved my own computer that he had been using, and I moved it. And he woke me up out of a sound sleep just to scream in my face and call me stupid and worthless. Don't touch anything. I said, but it's my computer. And I woke up like, you know, because that was how it was all the time. Always having to make sure that they still love you. And you could only be loved if you did certain things correctly. And you had to earn love. And none of that is fucking true. None of it. None of what either one of them taught me was actually true about life, because they didn't know, because they were so fucking blinded by their trauma and blinded by greed and all the things that don't matter. So, anyway, I'm doing some deep diving, some work, and I don't have my glasses on, but I think that is Kenny Rogers, and if it is, he died, didn't he? Wolfman died. I can't see, but either way, I want to go hang out and see what kind of knowledge that guy can bestow upon me. I like interesting people. I like people with backstories and scars and hurt and knowledge from it. And I don't know. But men have hurt me deeply in my life. Deeply. In all types of ways. And every single one I've met has either wanted to be just a complete fucking lying, conniving weirdo or control the hell out of me. I don't like either of those things. That's not what love is, and that's not what love feels like, and that's not what I'm looking for. And when I start spotting those red flags, I have to step away. You know, when I start seeing people react like my dad does about things, instead of like communicating, I gotta step away. But I also know that I react like that too, because that was my dad, and that was what I learned, and that's, you know, I had to fight back all the time. I'm trying to soften it, but there is a problem in our society with how men treat women, period. And you cannot blame it on us anymore, fellas. You cannot, you cannot blame, no one can blame their own behavior on anyone else unless it's stuff like they're endangering your life. But if you do some crazy fuck shit, and then you want to be mad at me because you did it, just like my, you know, they would always do that crap. No, you clean up your own mess. I don't know. But if you also, you're putting in that work too to like heal and fix yourself and really communicate and learn from our mistakes and grow and change, I'm here for you. I love that. I did some work, so I'm like elevating and not in the hierarchy that, you know, everybody wants me to. But I'm just learning who I am and what works for me and what doesn't, because I've never been allowed to in my life have any kind of autonomy at all, ever. And I have to. It's essential. It's essential. Everything has been under somebody else's control my entire life, who did not have my best interests at heart. That's the thing. That's why I'm shell shocked, because they did not actually care or love me. They wanted something else out of it. And I don't have time for that bullshit. I don't have time for people being sneaky and weird. Because if we just talk to each other, it's a whole different ballgame. But if you start making fake profiles and doing all that weird shit and trying to like make me feel bad about who I am and how I show up, are you sure about that? You gonna find a different way to go about it? That ain't it, babe. And it ain't me, babe. So, anyway, I'm gonna have a great day. Because I'm not letting anything that doesn't matter get to me anymore. And I have bigger goals than everybody else around me, it seems. Like, I want more. I want better. And I want it for everybody, not just me. It doesn't seem like anybody's doing that. So I'm going to find people who do. And this, it just isn't for me. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be. But also shouldn't hurt people. Got off track again, didn't I? Talking about daddy. I don't even know. But every time I start feeling nostalgic, then I start thinking about something else. And I'm like, I'm good. I'm alright. Because at least there's not that.